All I ask is everybody to please keep the conversations down so everybody can hear, your neighbor can hear, and everybody can hear. So, can everybody hear me okay? Excellent. Senator Moore, Representative Meridian, fellow selectmen, family and friends, on behalf of a great planning committee that I had the pleasure to work with, my wife Lisa, Sandy, Donna Desjardins, Kelly, Mike Howell, and Derek, welcome and thank you for being here and being part of what should prove to be a great night. Please allow me to acknowledge some things before we get started. As the next hour progresses, please continue to enjoy the wonderful appetizers and continue to visit the beverage station to my left. With that, I want to take a moment to thank both Barry Keefe from Dinner and Company and Jim Detremont from Cocktails Bar Service for joining us and doing a great job this evening. I also want to remind you about the great silent auction we have in the rear of the hall. I want to thank the town's businesses for their very charitable and generous donations contained in those beautiful gift baskets, and thank Lisa, Donna, and Diane today for all the work they did in putting these baskets together. I also want to thank Sandy for all the work she did in obtaining that beautiful print of the center of town. So thank you all very much. Thank you. So please bid high, bid often. If you win some this evening, if you don't have the means to pay for it this evening, I think we can trust you. So make arrangements with us, and you can pay at a later date. So please bid high and bid often. Okay, on with the night. We're here this evening to honor a man who has served this town for many years. Gives deep and sincere thought in his decision-making and has a very soft persona. Oh, ladies and gentlemen, I'm so embarrassed. In my case, I accidentally grabbed the speech that was done for selected dates. I'm so sorry. All right. Again. All right, okay. All right, we're here this evening to honor a man who has served this town in a way that truly accents his planning and organizational skills, his attention to detail, and his ability to create detailed documents. Ladies and gentlemen, before. I am so sorry, again, in my case, I accidentally grabbed the speech that we did for Selectman Pickard. I am so embarrassed. I am so embarrassed. I'm sorry. Okay. All right, I think I'm all set now. Bob Fleming. Bob Fleming. What do I say, or what can I tell you about Bob that he hasn't already told you about himself repeatedly? Here's a man that has served this town in public office for 30 years. It all started in 1988. So with that said, let's look at some things that happened in 1988. Average cost of a new home, $91,000. Interest rates, 10.5%. Average income, $24,000 a year. Average new car price, $10,400. Gas was 91 cents a gallon. The stealth bomber was unveiled. Rain Man, Big, Twins, Beetlejuice were the big hits at the box office. Cheers and Who's the Boss? Lloyd Benson tells Dan Quayle. Jessica Rabbit was the hot girl. And as I said, Bob Fleming begins his political career. Oh yeah, by the way, I believe our next chairman of the Board of Selectmen, Selectman Doherty, where are you, Gary? Over here, sir. Were you 6 years old? You were 6 years old. In 1988, you were 6 years old? 8 years old, I'm sorry. Selectman Doherty was 8 years old at the time. Bob has had an incredible career as selectman, and as he's told me many times, had the opportunity to serve with many incredible individuals. Many of these individuals are here with us this evening, and we are fortunate that you will hear from them, and I'm sure they have some good stories to tell you about Bob. When Bob began, the town of Upton had no Department of Public Works, no town-owned highway equipment. Upton Fire Station was in the basement of the town hall. The fire department was small and outdated. The infrastructure of the Upton school system was in need of renovation expansion, and the town hall was nice, but a tired building with no ADA access. In Bob's time in office, Bob and his teammates were instrumental and vital in the creation of the Upton DPW Department and facilities, the creation of a new wastewater treatment plant, the creation and expansion of the town's municipal water system. A new high school and elementary school was built. The building of a new police station, the building of a new fire and EMS headquarters, the expansion of the town's recreational infrastructure, and the magnificent and state-of-the-art renovation of this incredible building we are in this evening, just to name a few. The majority of this was done without the benefit of a town manager. When I first started as selectman, I often told Bob and Ken that I consider myself the spoiled one because I did not know this job without a town manager. I didn't have to be the temporary DPW director or temporary dog officer or have to fill roles as needed as vacancies open in these critical positions. I know when I was on, I did get some late night phone calls, and I'm sure as you all did, but I can't imagine the volume of calls you received without a town manager. For that service and all the incredible work you did, Bob, I say thank you to you and also to all the selectmen in this room and those not here with us this evening for all the jobs you did. I think you all deserve a Bob, I'm sure you received many thank yous this evening. You deserve them all. So just sit there and enjoy the night. With that said, at this time I will yield the podium to our guest speakers, who I'm sure will have many stories to tell you about Bob. To our speakers, I would ask their consideration in understanding the time-sensitive schedule of this evening's event. Please keep your remarks to no more than 5 minutes. That includes you, Al Holman.
Well, I would just
in order to give everyone a chance to say a few words. So with that said, the first two speakers we have coming up worked very hard for the town of Upton and have been great partners to the Board of Selectmen. I am honored to introduce them both. Please allow me to introduce our first speaker, Senator Michael Moore.
Good evening. It's an honor to be here tonight. This seems to be retirement night. I just left Grafton when one of their selectmen was retiring, and I thought he had served for a long time, about 19 years. Now I'm hearing 30 years. And as Jim was talking, he was going along the same line I was going along. I wasn't quite 8 when he first got elected. But I was 25. So I was thinking down when I was on the floor, I was talking to Sandy. I said, what's the same or different from Upton between then and now? I didn't think of all the things that Jim talked about, how the town has grown and really advanced, but as I'm back here with Dave, I was thinking, the cell phone. Think back 25 years. What did this look like? Does anyone remember? Those big bag phones? Do you remember what the computer looked like? One of those big computers that sat on your desk? And where are we now? It's all contained in this. And during that time, Jim has been here. He's been helping bring some of that technology and some of that equipment here to the town to make your life, Jim, Bob.
Mike said it, I'm the one with hair.
You're the one with hair?
I'm the one with hair.
So Bob's been here the entire time, helping bringing that to the town of Upton. And at the same time, as you've grown and advanced, you've maintained the same culture and character that you've had for the many years. So I think he deserves a lot of credit for being part of that growth and the wisdom and protecting what you have in Upton and actually maintaining everything and why you're such a great community. So in the recognition of that and staying under the 5 minutes that I was just told about, I have from the State Senate an official citation. Be it known that the Massachusetts Senate hereby extends its congratulations to Robert F. Fleming in recognition of your 30 years of public service with appreciation for your dedication to the residents and businesses as you step down from the Upton Board of Selectmen, and be it further known that the Massachusetts Senate extends its best wishes for continued success, that this citation be duly signed by the President of the Senate and attested to and a copy thereof by the Clerk of the Senate. It's signed by our Senate President, Harriet Chandler, and myself, and congratulations and thank you.
Thank you, Senator. Again, our next speaker, I am honored and privileged to introduce another great partner of this town and this board, Representative David Meridian.
Thank you, Jim. Thank you, everyone, for allowing me to say a couple of remarks for Bob here tonight. I will also be very brief, but that's more because Mike Campbell promised everyone a free round if we cut this off a little early. So, Rose Garden after this. Listen, it's an honor to be here tonight. I've had the privilege of knowing Bob for many years. From 2007 on, as I started then working for former State Representative George Peterson. And obviously now, George has moved on, and I have as well. And so I actually was able to let Bob hear a voicemail from George, who, when I talked to him yesterday, said, geez, I really want to wish him congratulations as well. So George called up to congratulate Bob, too. And just for clarification, 30 years ago, I was 5, going on 6. So I don't know what the cell phones looked like then, but we did have Nintendo. So, Bob, it's been an honor to work with you. We're losing a whole heck of a lot of institutional knowledge for the town. We're losing someone who's been a champion and an advocate for everyone in this community, and it's someone who's going to be sorely missed, but not far away. We know that, and something tells me you'll be sitting there front row and center trying to listen to a couple of these meetings, whether in person or on TV too. But I have the opportunity to bring a House of Representatives citation. So Bob, the citation reads, the Commonwealth of Massachusetts House of Representatives. Be it hereby known to all that the Massachusetts House of Representatives offers its sincerest congratulations to Robert Fleming in recognition of the joyous occasion, which I think some of these people are here to make sure that you are retiring. The joyous occasion of your retirement after 30 years of dedicated service to the town of Upton as a member of the board. The entire membership extends its very best wishes and expresses the hope for future good fortune and continued success in all of your endeavors. It's given the 11th of May, 2018, signed by Speaker of the House, Robert A. DeLeo, and what I believe is your favorite state representative, David Meridian. Congratulations.
At this time, I would like to introduce, I think, the 8-year-old selectman. The next chairman, Selectman Gary Doherty.
And Steve.
Go.
Both of you guys, how's it?
Want to go first? Oh, sure. Good evening, everyone. Thank you for coming. I'd like to thank Mr. and Mrs. Jardin, Mr. and Mrs. Brochu, Kelly, Sandy, and Mike Howe for setting this event up. And thank you, the senator and the representative. I know many of you here tonight to wish Bob goodbye, and the other half are here to make sure it's really happening. But today the board has lost a ton of knowledge and experience, which is irreplaceable. During Bob's time in public office, he has made a ton of popular and unpopular decisions. But after I got to know Bob, I know every decision he made was based on the information he had and what was in the best interest of the town of Upton. Over these past 30 years, Bob has dedicated more time to Upton than anyone could have ever imagined. Because of that, we need to thank his wife, Elaine, and their kids, who stood by him, supported him, and probably sacrificed the most over these years. As we recognize Bob and thank Bob for your 30 years of service, both Steve and I would like to extend our gratitude for the knowledge and patience you have provided us while we learned what it meant to be a selectman. From here, I'd like to turn it over to Steve.
Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. We're here to celebrate and acknowledge the 30 years of tenure of Robert Fleming and his dedication to the town of Upton. It is difficult to grasp the progression of the town government in this lengthy span of time, and also the long-standing tenure of citizenship and service to the town of Upton. From his early days as a young man, where he attended the grand opening of the Knowlton Hat Factory, to 1872, to later starting a family and shortly thereafter seeking public office. Beginning on the Finance Committee and then elevating himself to the Board of Selectmen, advancing the town forward until the present day, all for the betterment of the town. And now this leads us to tonight. I would like to thank personally not only Bob, but his wife Elaine and their 3 children for sharing so much of his spare time with the town of Upton. I consider Bob a friend and a valuable resource for both myself and this board moving forward and towards the future. If you added up all the time and effort Bob has given to the benefit of our town, we can never thank him enough. So thank you, Robert. And also, Gary and I would like to present you with the finest bottle of brandy available anywhere in the world, enjoyed by dignitaries everywhere from Winston Churchill to President. Go ahead. Oh. And from Auntie Rose.
Auntie Rose. My blessed friend was Auntie Rose. My mother met her when she was 5 years old, and they stayed friends till she passed away last year at 97. And my sister Paula and I, and Elaine and I, we knew her as Auntie Rose. She was Armenian heritage, and I learned how to say inch besses lavem. I could do great things, and so Steve relates to some of that. But thank you for bringing her name in. She was here tonight. Thank you.
Thank you, Gary. Thank you, Steve. And Bob, I forgot to tell you, the rule, Bob, I forgot to tell you,
Upper Bill Hill.
Bob, I forgot to tell you, the rules are you don't say anything until you're called on.
Thank you.
Okay? You know.
Yeah.
So, you just sit there and enjoy. But thank you, Steve. Thank you, Gary. The next person I'd like to introduce truly needs no introduction. He's a true friend to Upton, and a friend to me, and a friend to all of us. Selectman James R. Bates.
Hi, Robert J. Fleming.
Hi, James R.
I got a call a while back from Jim Brochu and asked me if I would attend Mr. Fleming's event tonight. And I said I would be honored and privileged to. And a couple days later, I got another call from a person that asked me if I'd do a little roasting of Mr. Fleming. And I said, I can't do that. He's my friend, he's my colleague, and he was my boss for many, many, many years on the Board of Selectmen. So this person said, well, are you sure you can't roast him a little bit? And I said, well, I'm no Don Rickles, but I'll give it a shot. So, let's get started, Robert. Everyone will be familiar with this. This is Bob Fleming's last campaign sign. But I also have Bob Fleming's first campaign sign. But I didn't bring it with me tonight because I checked on eBay and they said it's too valuable to give away. So I have that at home. But I remember that sign because it was, Bob, by the way, is from Worcester, Maine South, the Irish neighborhood of Worcester. And so Bob's first campaign sign was white and green, Irish green, which didn't work because in the springtime with the white and the, you couldn't see the sign until you were on top of it. So Bob's first mistake entering in local politics in the little town of Upton. But it continued. As we started the campaign, which I believe was 1986, there's been some other stories here. Bob gets out on the campaign trail and he goes down to Brook Street. It's a little street, and it was a dead end at the time. Selectman Desjardins lives there now. And so he knocked on a door of a person named Robert Anderson. And Bob Anderson and Bob Fleming strike up a great conversation because Bob Anderson was a lieutenant commander in the Air Force, and after active duty, he continued on the reserves. And Bob was a high-ranking officer in the U.S. Coast Guard at the time. So they got talking about their service careers and about the Air Force and about the Coast Guard. And it went on for like an hour. And so at the end, Bob says, oh, geez, Mr. Anderson, I really have to get going. But would you vote for me? And Bob Anderson says, geez, Bob, it was a really nice conversation, but my brother-in-law, Jim Bates, is also running. So a couple days pass, Bob is on the campaign trail again, and he goes down to see Sam Nara, which was in Nara's Spa across the street, no longer there. And Sam was an assessor, and he was the veterans agent. So Bob says, geez, I can equate. So he goes up. Sam had an office upstairs. Bob goes upstairs, and Sam Nara was a Korean War veteran and the veterans agent. So Bob starts talking to Sam about their knowledge of the military and spent another hour. And at the end, after an hour goes by, Bob says, geez, Sam, this was a nice conversation. I hope you vote for me. And Sam says, geez, you know, I've been a supporter of Jim Bates since he started. I'm voting for Jim Bates. So a couple more days pass, and I had known Bob from a relationship with Squint Ramsey, a former selectman. And I bump into Bob, and he says, Jesus, Jim, he says, you know, everywhere I go, they're either related to you or I know you. And I says, Bob, welcome to the little small town of Upton. Bob went on and got elected the next year, and we served together for many, many, many years. And then I worked for Bob as the administrative assistant. But just for a minute, and I know I'm overdoing my time, but I want to get serious now for a second. I was fortunate enough to serve with, either serve with or for, 14 selectmen. And I also knew, because of my father and grandfather being involved in town government, another 14 selectmen. And people run for selectmen for many different reasons. Mostly good, but some not so good. People run for name recognition to enhance their career. People might run to enhance their name recognition to enhance a business. Unfortunately, sometimes, years ago, people would run because of a grudge, or because of a vendetta, or because of a neighborhood issue, or because of a special agenda. Well, I'm here to tell you that of all the people that I've known or served with, Bob Fleming, for all his 30-some-odd years, ran for selectman, was a selectman, for one reason and one reason only, and that was to serve the people of the town of Upton, unequivocally. And in my opinion, that is the highest compliment anyone can ever get that's been a selectman. Thank you.
Before I introduce our next speaker, I just want to tell you just a little quick story. Al, sit down. You're okay. I don't know if you know this, Bob is a motivator. Bob knows the right words to say to motivate people. He really does. I remember my first dealings with Bob. Now, I knew Bob. This is about 8, 9 years ago. You know, I knew Bob. Bob knew me. And the word on the street was that people wanted me to run for selectman. And, you know, I wasn't sure. So we went to a recital at Misco, my wife and I. And, you know, we had to sit in the bleachers. And, of course, I looked, you know, in the front row of the recital, and there's Bob and Elaine. I guess selectmen get the front row at these recitals, and we get the bleachers. But, you know, I said, let me go up and, I told Lisa, I said, let me go up and say hi to Bob and say hi to Mr. and Mrs. Fleming. And I walked up to him, and I said, hello, Mrs. Fleming. I said, hi, Bob. Point blank, looks at me, he says, so you're going to run for selectman? I go, and I was taken back. I go, I don't know. I said, it's a big decision. He goes, chicken shit. And I thanked him. And I said, thank you. Good talking to you, Bob. And I went back. And I sat down, and my wife goes, how was your conversation? I said, he called me a chicken shit. And I thanked him. You know, but I ran for selectman, you know, so I guess those words worked, so. But anyway, without further ado, again, it is my honor and a privilege to invite another friend, Selectman Richard Desjardins.
Sure. So I don't step on it. Let's see, I started this little business in 1979, and I was serving with Selectman Bates, Selectman Robertson, and Selectman Aldo Consigli had just left. We had a team. I was able to learn from Jim Bates, Robertson, and be an effective selectman. I had a great time. They did teach me in 3 years how to be an effective selectman. Well, those 3 years went by. In 1988, a young man by the name of Bob Fleming came over. He was selectman. Well, in all the years I'd been selectman at the time, I never saw anybody so, I mean, you could compare him to the road runner. He was good, he was fast, but he had a little bag of ideas, and I'd have to say, in his bag of ideas, they were all good, pretty much, but one thing that Bob did not realize, and it'll come to the story I'm going to tell. First thing Bob wanted to do is go to this other town and share services, which was dispatching at the time. That was great. Saved money. Cut the costs in half. It came in front of the Board of Selectmen. He mentioned it. He wanted to go. And also, Mr. Bates, to my surprise, said, good. But our secretary, our clerk, our executive secretary, Joan Varney, her eyes were rolling. That was all right. We went and signed up in Mendon. We were on the agenda. Excuse me, I didn't mean to say the town. But anyway, we signed up. We were on the agenda. We went there, sat down, and waited. We waited to the end of their meeting. They called us up. Well, Bob was prepared like nobody ever been prepared before. He had everything lined up, the expenses, the cost, the savings. That was great. Anyway, the board didn't even consider it. They weren't even interested. They showed no interest in our proposition. That's the first time that I found that we felt like aliens in another town. That wasn't going to happen again. When we came back to Upton, Bob went from, I'd say, the Roadrunner to the Energizer Bunny. He figured out how to bring forth his ideas. He, for 30 years, those ideas that he had in this little bag when he came in, you can see it. You can see the new schools, the fire stations, everything that we have now. He brought us to the existing time now. Bob did very well. One of the things, I mean, he brought the whole town forward. But one thing that he did, he brought us back 130, 40 years. Set us right back. What he did. It's beautiful. Bob,
Thank you, Richard. At this time, again, it's my honor to bring up Selectman Al Holman.
Unlike the Massachusetts House and Senate, I did not yield my time to the previous speakers. But I do believe Jim won the contest over Jim Bates. He had to come back for a reprisal. First of all, I'd like to thank Bob for not only his service to this community, but his service to the United States of America. He retired from the military, and I think he deserves a hand for that. I first met Bob and Jim Bates in the selectman's office when we negotiated who was going to replace somebody who resigned from the school committee. I was with a young man. Oh, by the way, the phones that were used back when he first became a selectman, they had strings on them and they had little paper cups. And I was competing, and the fellow I was with suggested that people with gray hair probably didn't understand the school system, and that's how I got elected to the school system, the school committee. Then I ran for selectman, and I got to serve with Jim Bates, and then Jim, and then a fellow by the name Bob Fleming. And what I can say without question is that was the most fun and most enjoyment I ever had serving in public office, because I learned a great deal. And then I ran for office and was reelected after I had my lobotomy. And I've served with Bob during the good times and bad times. Bob was well involved in when we built the new high school and when we updated Misco Hill. And I can say without question that this town has benefited over its years by the service of Bob Fleming. And I hope that someday I can serve as many years and contribute as much as my good friend and colleague Bob Fleming did. Thank you.
Thank you, Al. Again, at this time, I am honored to bring up Selectman Alan Rosenberg.
First, I just want to say that I made an error tonight. When I showed up here, I left my words that I was going to say to Bob. And you've already heard them. Mr. Brochu said them. He was eloquent, it was insightful, it was respectful. It's everything that I would have said to Bob. You did a great job, because, for the 2 terms you served as a selectman, I didn't think you could speak. You did a great job. So, you know what, really, I was a colleague of yours, I think for a mere 4 or 5 months before you decided to leave the office. And I don't know if the community remembers, but if there's ever going to be a game about selectmen, I think I'll have a place in it, because I have a truly honored spot in it. I served out the remainder of Selectman Bates' term, and for a period of time before Selectman Fleming left, I had the benefit and knowledge and opportunity to learn from really the 2 best. Jim was at that time the administrative assistant, and the time that Bob stayed, I really learned an awful lot from you. And I look out here, and people aren't here tonight because of politically what you did. These people here, when I look at them, they're here as your friends. You made a difference in their lives. You made a difference in their family lives. You did that for everybody in the town of Upton. There's no doubt in my mind that the town that you first served 30-something years ago and the town that you're leaving now is so much better off from the service that you gave it. And a prior speaker mentioned that what is additionally unique about you, although I think it's really in every selectman that I ever served with, you didn't do it for personal gain. And how do we know that? Because you, like most of us, you alienated not only your enemies, but you alienated your friends. And that's really, I think that truly is the test of a selectman who has the town's interest at heart, and you had at all times the town's interest. And again, I have to say, you were the reason that I decided to run for the remainder of Selectman Bates' terms. I remember that I came here with Keith Scollard and Bill McCormick on behalf of the Upton Men's Club at that time that I decided to run. And we were coming here because we wanted to help the VFW have a fair. And you were so open to the idea, and you were so willing to help us in the club that's now been in existence for over 20 years and has given back, by my count, over $1 million to this community over that period of time. And you played a part in it. And I want to thank you for that. Bob, stand up. There you go. So, Bob, on behalf of the Upton Men's Club, I want to give you our Citizens Award. It is with gratitude and appreciation the Upton Men's Club recognizes Robert J. Fleming for over 30 years of community service to the town of Upton. Today's date, May 11th, 2018. And this is a collector's item. You're going to wear it when the Celtics play. Oh, nice. All right.
Thank you, Alan. At this time, we are going to have a little bit of gift presentations, but before I invite some individuals up for gift presentations, I want to remind people that the silent auction is going. Lisa, could you check and see, make sure my bids are still okay back there every now and, okay, perfect, thank you. Okay, at this time, it is my honor to invite Deputy Chief Mike Marchand on behalf of the Upton Fire and EMS.
Well, I was going to come tonight and I was just going to read what was on the plaque, but I couldn't. I just want to share some funny stories with Bob. As a young member of the Upton Fire Department, one day we decided we wanted to buy a ladder truck. So we found this old 1956 Maxim ladder truck, and Chief Henderson and I happened to drive it up to Bob's house, and Bob come out and he said, "What's this?" And he goes, "Well, we want to buy it." And then I heard for one of the first times in my life, what did Flaherty say? And so that went on I learned from then on, you went to Paul Flaherty, and if Flaherty said it was okay, Bob or the selectman would go along with it. Those are the things I want to remember about Bob. Today, with technology, what we do is I send a text message to Derek and hope that maybe we can get something different then. But I just had to share that moment with you, those days. So, Bob, on behalf of the, now let me get the wrapper out. On behalf of in recognition for your 30 years of dedicated service to the town of Upton and for your support of the Fire and EMS Association and the Fire and EMS Department, we present you with this shield.
At this time, I'd like to bring up Town Manager Derek Brindisi to present something on behalf of the Upton Police Department. Derek?
So I'm the new guy. I actually wasn't supposed to speak tonight, but Chief Bradley was not able to attend. And Chief Bradley has done so much for the community, has supported me this past year, so I figured the least I could do for Chief Bradley is present the police department's plaque on behalf of the police department. But since I have the floor, I might as well say a few things, right? Let me start by saying that in this position, for those of you that don't know, it's very exhausting, it's very comprehensive, it's very complicated. And so when I think about, I've had this conversation with Bob, when I think about the things that I do and the support that I have with everyone here in Town Hall and the other departments, I don't know how, I really don't, I say this with all sincerity, I don't know how these guys did it. These guys worked full-time, and then they came back to town after working full-time, and then they sat in Town Hall, and they tried to resolve all the issues that come up on a daily basis. And let me tell you, there's issues that come up every single day. I don't know how these guys did it. So I first want to thank not only Bob, but every selectman that's sitting in this room for the things that they did before there was a town manager. So I want to thank you all. And to Bob in particular, So Bob Reed was the interim town manager. I knew Bob from his days in Leicester, and apparently him and Janice, when they worked in Leicester, they had this thing they used to do. The town manager would come in and do a breakfast. So is Bob Reed here? He is. Where is he? There he is. So yeah, Bob and I, yeah, so I want to thank Bob, because now I do a breakfast every month at the senior center, thanks to Bob. So, and I enjoy it because it gives me an opportunity to talk to folks. So this past week was my monthly breakfast with over at the senior center, and I asked Bob Fleming to attend. One, because certainly it's his last week as a sitting selectman, as chairman. But more importantly, I thought it'd be an opportunity for him to meet new friends, right? In his new role as a retired selectman. So at this, and this is the first time I said it, and I want to say it tonight because I really mean it. Bob and I've only been here for a little less than a year, and he took me out for dinner the month before I started, and we had a really good conversation. Both being Worcester guys, we related well, and we connected right away. And it's very difficult to come in a community when you don't know the streets, you don't know the people, and so that's challenging. And so I want to thank Bob publicly because his guidance and his advice over the past year have been extremely helpful to me to try to be successful. And that makes us all successful together. So Bob, I've said it once at the Senior Center, and I really appreciate it. You have done so much for me in this past year, and I'm certainly going to miss you. So I appreciate that. So now for the purpose of why I was brought up here, I'm going to read this plaque. To Robert J. Fleming, Selectman, in recognition of your 30 years of service and support of the Upton Police Department, we thank you very much.
Okay, we have one more presentation that I would like to present. When I heard that the town hall was going to be renovated, which I was thrilled about, I was so excited, but there was so many unique and interesting things down here, I said, I got to come down and grab some stuff. You know, I don't know if those who remember the town hall, that little yellow rope with the wooden sign at the bottom of the stairs that says, do not enter, go up the stairs, I've got that. See if anybody's looking for it. But anyway, I came down and I got this sign. This sign hung over the door of the old office. So many incredible individuals walked under this sign. So many that made this town what it is today. So how more fitting should it be that the selectmen signed it? And I present it to you, Bob. Well, thank you all. Have a seat. Thank you all. In closing, it's the only time I get that you listen to me. This is it. In closing, I want to say that we've had a little fun here this evening at Bob's expense. And I want to take a moment to thank him for his good sense of humor. No one can truly understand the time it takes and the sacrifices made to do the job as selectman. Bob has done it for 30 years. Never mind the sacrifices he has made, but the sacrifices his family has also made. I'm sure if you ask Bob or any selectman here, they would say this job is very stressful on family life. And there are many times they could not be at an important family event because of this job. For that reason, I would like to take a moment to thank all the families of my fellow selectmen, as well as my family, for their patience and understanding as we fulfilled our commitment. Thank you, families. This evening, I especially want to say thank you to Elaine, Kelly, Tracy, and Eric for the sacrifices you all made in the last 30 years. I know there were probably times you needed your husband or your dad to help you with something, but he wasn't there because of this town. Just please know that because of your understanding in allowing him to do the job that he was good at, this town is much better today than it was when he began. So again, I say thank you. Bob, you did it. And you did it well. I know there were some extremely stressful times, but you never gave up. You kept fighting for what you felt was right thing for the town of Upton. I am fortunate to have had the opportunity to serve with you. You have taught me a lot, and I feel I am a better person having served. I thank you for your commitment. I thank you for the great work you did for this town. I thank you for your many years of service. And most importantly, I thank you for your friendship. Now it's your time. It's your turn. All I can say is enjoy your retirement, as I know you will. Congratulations on all your successes. And congratulations on achieving what is truly your final. So, ladies and gentlemen, it is truly my honor and a privilege to introduce to you Selectman Robert J. Fleming.
Those of you who know me are probably a little surprised that I am at a loss. I'm usually never at a loss for words. I am right now. I am so humbled. So we can do this, but I'm doing it. I'm looking in this room and I see people. Everybody asks me, well, what was your greatest achievement? What do you think is the most important? And that is right here now. It's the friends I made. You heard speakers come up. It's all about friendship and loyalty. And those things I have such appreciation for. I have people in this room that mean so much to me. The fact that you people would come out, I honestly, when this started, Elaine said, Bob, you mind if some people get together? And I went, okay, but I had no vision of this whatsoever. I truly also respect my family for what they gave. My kids were home at night doing homework with Elaine and I wasn't there. That is my regret. Other than that, I love this job. It's going to be hard to leave it. Derek asked me, what are you going to miss the most? And honestly, my answer was the game. The chess game, moving pieces, the dynamics of it. I loved it. It all started back in, I think it was 1982, and Elaine was working for a presidential candidate. You probably won't even remember him. His name was Fred Harris. And Elaine found him, and she was working for him and became the delegate for this area. And there was a guy that we went to candidates night at the VFW, and Elaine didn't want to speak, and she knew I could talk a dog off a meat truck. So I spoke on behalf of Fred Harris, and this gentleman came out of the audience and said, hey, would you be interested in being on the Democratic Town Committee? My name's Squint Ramsey. And I said, yeah, okay. He says, I'll skin up your house tomorrow and we'll talk. Well, he came up, that was a Sunday, and 5 hours later he left. And he became one of my best friends in life. I mean, a gentleman that was a gentleman. His wife's here tonight, and I can't tell you what this gentleman meant. So once you knew Squint Ramsey, and the Ramsey family was prominent in Upton, once you knew him, you knew everybody. You could not go from West Upton to Holy Angels without at least a half-hour trip because you had to stop and talk to everybody. So I knew the relatives, and I knew who were cousins of cousins, and I made my mistakes, and I learned you don't say anything because you don't know who married into what family, you don't know who's who. And I have a story, I made that faux pas on Squint's front porch, and it was a beauty. It was Booty's sister. So go figure. But we became best of friends. I mean, best of friends. I used to go out at night with him when he would plow us his shotgun, and all I was capable of doing was shoveling, but we got along so well. I miss him immensely. And he was the one that said, why don't you go on the finance committee? And I said, gee, that sounds like fun. And then I figured I know enough people in Upton this would work. So I was appointed to the finance committee. John Robertson, Dick Desjardins, and Curly Tatro appointed me. And I was on for 4.5 years. And when I first got on, the chairman, they had an election to who would be chair and vice chair. And the chairman said, who wants to be vice chair? And no one wanted it. And he said, all you do is run a meeting when I'm not here, no big deal. Well, I said, all right, I'll do it. And the following meeting, the chairman resigned. And I was the kid from Worcester that knew how to get through Upton, so I took it upon myself to go meet with all the departments and got to know them and learned a lot about the town. At that time, Upton had 3 full-time employees, the chief and 2 police officers. Everybody else was part-time. So as Jim Bates said, I was encouraged to run for the Board of Selectmen, and as Jim says, we ran together, but he beat me. And then the following year, I ran and became a member of the board. And prior to that, the Finance Committee, we always sat in selectmen meetings. Every week I was there with the selectmen in the front row. I figured, I really know what I'm doing now. In my first meeting as a selectman, I realized I don't know what I'm doing. I was in the dark, and I had 2 great mentors, Jim and Dick, 2 of my best friends. They really helped me along. They let me make the mistakes. They nurtured me. They were my mentors. And as it evolved, I began to serve with more and more members. And honestly, I built friendships and relationships. It's hard for some people to understand from the outside, but when you are dealing with issues that are volatile and you have people that are angry and people are upset, and you unite as a team, you build a great bond. And that's what happened with us. We were blessed because in those days, I said it was part-time. There's a woman in this room, Joan Varney. I don't know how you did it, Joan, but we used to show up at your house at night. Joan was our clerk. Joan worked part-time. She's over there. And Joan was the same. It would be 12:30 at night, and she would still be there, and we'd get in an argument, and she'd look at us and say, boys, and like a mother, she'd slow us down, and we started to behave again. But it was quite a real learning curve for me, because I learned a lot about this town. And one of my greatest takeaways was that even if, and I'm going back, it's changing, I have to be honest, but going back to the older years when I first ran, people may not have agreed with you, but they respected your commitment, and that meant a lot. There were people in this town that I know thought, what is this guy doing? But they had respect for what I did, the fact that I put myself out there. And that kept me motivated. And, you know, it's the quiet majority. It still rules. It's the people that you don't hear from that are the ones that appreciate it. It's the ones that you hear from that will always be that type of person, and you have to learn to understand it. Sometimes it hurts. I would be lying if I said there were times that I did not go home and have a restless night's sleep because of the attacks. But the greatest takeaway is here tonight with all of you people. I've got my family here. My sisters are here. My mother couldn't make it. I would have loved to have her here. By the way, Mr. Keniston, you're here? Doug? The highest vote getter in Upton's history Doug, just for the record, you're 3 weeks older than my mother. We did the math. So I'm sorry she wasn't here, but it's a great privilege to be here. I am humbled. I'm holding back a lot of emotion because I'm trying to be stronger than I really feel right now. But I don't know how to say thank you for your friendship. You people, a lot of you in this room have given as much as I've given. You just haven't been in the limelight doing it. But I appreciate just knowing you, and that's all that matters to me. So thank you to you, and thank you.
Can we get all the selectmen up here, please? John, all the selectmen up here, please.
Standing before you will be all
First executive secretary.
just like at home, standing up here on this stage are members that have served on the Board of Selectmen, standing here around introductions. I'm so proud to have been served with all these people and be blessed with a family like this. I've got my big sister, my little sister, my daughters. It's a great experience. Everyone should self-actualize like I feel right now. So to my fellow selectmen, guys, you're great. Open tonight, you okay?
Okay.